It's time for Six-Figure Trucking Period 23. Let's look at my compensation as a W-2 company driver. First, we're going to talk about the logs for the week. I was paid for 2,174 dispatch miles. I had 2,377 logged miles. My utilization this week was 97%. The day in orange was a day that I was on a paid 34-hour reset. My unedited pay statement, period 23 of 2024. This includes all trips from May 26th to June 1st. The first trip was definitely an LTL load. It started and ended at the Fort Recovery, Ohio terminal. It had stops in Illinois that included Bloomingdale, East Dubuque, Plano, and Shenanahan. There were stops in Iowa that included Moqueta, Waterloo, and Des Moines, plus 3 stops in Omaha, Nebraska, and 1 in Wheeling, West Virginia. It paid $1,104 for 1,341 miles. The second trip this week started in Wheeling, West Virginia, and ended at the Fort Recovery, Ohio terminal. It paid $137 for 244 miles. The third trip this week was in Shenanahan, Illinois. It paid $37 for 2 miles. The fourth trip this week started in Shenanahan, Illinois, and ended at the Fort Recovery, Ohio terminal. It had stops in Homer Glen, Lincolnshire, and Vernon Hills. It paid $295 for 343 miles. The fifth trip this week started at the Fort Recovery, Ohio terminal and ended in Wheeling, West Virginia. It paid $137 for 245 miles. This week's compensation also included a day of holiday pay and the monthly insurance cash out. Empty miles paid $312, securement paid $25, holiday pay paid $150, insurance cash out paid $300. Loaded miles paid $1,033, and stops paid $340. Total earnings this week was $2,159. We keep hearing that across the industry, drivers are getting less miles and making less money. I'm one that believes in hard numbers rather than anecdotal information. Here's a comparison of my miles and compensation for the last 4 years. This looks at the compensation through week 23 of each year. 23 weeks into the year, my gross income was $49,000, and I've driven 62,864 miles. This averages out to $2,130 per week and 2,733 miles per week. Estimating that over a year, I'm on track to earn $110,783 for 142,127 miles. Through week 23 of 2024, I've been loaded 92% of the miles, and 14% have been hazmat placarded miles. This is a map of the miles per state year-to-date in which I have driven. This week, Iowa and Nebraska were added to the maps of states driven in for this year. Here's the home time that I've taken this payroll year. No additional home time was added this week. I've been on home time 8 times so far this year through week 23, totaling 28.6 days. I've also had 12 paid 34-hour resets on the road. I'm not paid hourly, but let's calculate like an hourly job. For the week, my gross pay was $2,159 for 59 hours of work. If we break that down into a typical hourly job, it could be 40 regular hours and 19 hours of overtime. Year-to-date, I've earned $49,000 for 1,250 hours worked. Out of those hours, 909 would be regular time, 341 would be overtime. If we calculate it weekly with overtime, the effective pay rate is about $34.50 per hour. However, as straight time, it's approximately $39.20 per hour. Taking a look at the if-only truck drivers were paid for every hour in the truck calculation page, 23 weeks have went by thus far. That totals 3,864 hours. I've been at home 687 of those hours. That works out to 3,177 hours from pre-trip leaving home to post-trip returning home. My compensation through week 23 is $49,000. That works out to $15.42 per hour away from home. As always, make sure you're enjoying every day at work.